Greetings, loyal listeners. Dave here on behalf of the Hallway crew. Thanks as always for taking the time to listen in to our Hallway conversations. I feel like I keep apologizing for kicking this can down the road, but with our summer schedule, we have had a hard time finding a spare couple of hours to sit down for our recording sessions as we typically do. Everyone's travel schedules have been very busy for us this summer, and they haven't lined up very well, but we do have plans for new episodes coming your way soon. What I have for you today is a snippet from the last episode that we recorded. Some of the things that I was planning on trimming out, but I think it's pretty good stuff. This was leftovers from our episode on our advice for new teachers. And following that advice, I've also got something that I wrote on my blog quite some time ago, actually, reflecting on the difference between being a good teacher and a great teacher. And I hope both of those will be encouraging for you wherever you are in your teaching career. So I'll play a little music, and I'll start with the snippet from the last episode from our conversation. I'll play a little more music, and then I'll give you the reflection on good and great teachers. Hope you are having a wonderful summer. We look forward to having new episodes coming your way very, very soon. Peace to you all. Welcome to Hallway Conversations. We're a trio of educators who have plenty of questions about teaching and learning and school culture, and we believe in the value of reflection and collaboration as we seek to keep growing as teachers. This podcast is our place for thinking out loud together about issues in education and why they might matter to Christian educators. Welcome to the conversation.
I do think, like, even when I read her email, right, and just obviously knowing Emma, but I do think about that, like these you're just always thinking about the questions, and you don't have answers because you're not there. Like, you literally don't know almost a single teacher there, and you don't know a student, and you're just stepping into something brand new, which I think is actually tons of courage, right?
All of that newness all at once.
Yeah, and I do think, like, especially in your first year when you're not known, it's so easy to get stuck in your mistakes. That's not good enough, because even there it's a cultural question, like, do I have to be perfect? And of course you don't.
Right.
But when you don't know, you tell this story in your head, like Brene Brown says, right? Of like, there's a standard here, and I'm not doing enough, right? And it's that fine line between like, pursue excellence, but also, like, that you're enough. That's just hard, man. That's hard after 20 years of teaching, let alone your first year.
For sure.
What do you remember about your first year, Abby?
Ooh, I had a really, really tough group of junior boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I remember driving home and just replaying, right? Interactions and conversations. We had two of us start, at the same time, new teachers. One was from Northwestern, and she quit after year one because of that group of boys.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, just hard.
Yeah.
And so, and didn't like English class.
Yeah.
American Lit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's a hard sell.
Yeah. Right.
And I got that, and I was also not probably the best fit for them at that moment.
Sure.
And, I learned a lot too.
I can ask this then, how could and I know it's hindsight, but how could your colleagues or even your principal, could they have done anything different?
I don't know that it was theirs to figure out.
Yeah, interesting.
That's a good frame. Yeah.
It was mine to figure out, right? Yeah. And I did eventually, and I always say this to students, when I could figure out ways to show them that I was on their side instead of always being combative.
Yeah.
I hated the combat.
Yeah.
Well, it's just exhausting.
And it's exhausting, and I felt forced into it, but when I learned to turn things, and when I could forget, not take it so personally, right? Like, I think as a first, I would get so defensive. Like, I think once I learned, this is not about me.
Yep.
This is not, And
how did you combat? Like, I think for all of us, I guess I'm just thinking, like, what do you do when you feel self-doubt? Like, am I really called to that?
Oh,
no, but can I ask that? Like, not.
No, that's a real thing.
Maybe that's too vulnerable of a question, but, like, how did you keep believing? Like, because we've all had tough years.
I had different classes, which helped. Like, my seniors were actually, like, that went really well.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I could see glimmers of what it could be, and that was it was writing instead of lit. Like it was just there was a lot of things different about it, and that went really well year one.
Yeah, so and celebrate the success.
Got a lot of good feedback, you know. So there was elements of it, and there were students who I really got along with, you know. So I think just not letting the negative be the only thing,
the only narrative. How about you, Dave? Ever?
Yeah. It's really hard. Like I think back to, I was such an idealistic teacher for about 3 days. Yeah. and then the real world came crashing down around my ears, right? Yeah. And I cried a lot, honestly, in those first couple of weeks of teaching, because I was like, I am awful at this. Yeah. And what was I thinking, right? Like that kind of thing. Like pretty much every night I cried for like the first 3 weeks. Like this is too hard. This is not, and I'm glad I didn't give up on it, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like I had to reconcile with that, and it's interesting because even today, I'd say a lot of my identity is tied up in being a teacher, and like if I wasn't a teacher, like who am I then, right? Like there's a part of me. Partly it's just because I've been in the profession for so long too, but to that point, already at that point, I thought of myself like I had this idealized view of myself as a teacher and everything that's involved in that. So yeah, for me, a lot of it was just developing the resilience to say, like, I am not good at this right now. I can be good at this in the future. I'm going to keep working at it. I'm not giving up on it.
Yeah, I can remember coming here, so it was my 27th year in education. That last week of August, first week of September, I just remember going home, lots of tears, lots of anger. Lots of frustration, lots of wondering what was I thinking? Like, who do I think I am that I thought I could do that? Like that I thought I could do this.
You're in good company.
And just lots of that self-talk, right? And I think a bit like what you said, Abby. Like you sort of just then you start looking for these bright spots, like just a little, like not even a whole clip. Oh, here was 10 minutes of what I think it could be like, or. And just trying to like remind myself of that, right? Like things that give you hope, I guess. It's like, and it's that fine line of like, like we'll never know it all, but also have confidence too. Like you're these young. I want to say that to these young teachers, right? I can remember a veteran teacher. My first week in Montana. Coming into my room and say, "Oh, you'll be a good teacher someday," and I just remember thinking, "Can I be a good teacher now?"
Right.
And I think that is part of it. Is like you're always getting better, but also to be like, "Hey, to somehow manage being humble, but also like I can be good at this. Like there's things I'm already good at that I'll get better at." And I just remember that being like, I guess I'm not good, and it's like. Like
it's so interesting because I know I've said this before on the podcast too, but like how much better prepared our students are today for the work, right? And if they still don't feel that sense of confidence, well, part of it's you just got to go and do it. Like how do you become a 10-year veteran? You go teach for 10 years, right? And there's truth in that. But at the same time, like, they're really well prepared for this. Yeah. And so how do we instill that self-efficacy in them then, I guess? That's the question.
And you do want to say to them, like, you were hired because people believe in you. Right. They see something in you that said, we want that person on this team.
That's right.
So, to remind yourself of that, right? They're seeing something in you. Can you see it in yourself? Anyways.
That's good. One morning in Introduction to Education, I asked my students to think about a good teacher. Perhaps try to visualize a particular teacher they've had. What words would you use to describe her or him? I turned to the board and put a word bubble at the center that said a good teacher, and I invited them to just shout out descriptors in a lightning round, and I scribbled like mad just to keep up. In less than 2 minutes, here were some of the things they'd suggested. Patient, challenging, genuine, passionate, caring, understanding, engaging, a good listener, organized, encouraging, knowledgeable, sacrificial, realistic, relational, a servant. That's a pretty powerful list. I'm trying to imagine a teacher that might have all of these characteristics all at the same time. But that wouldn't be a good teacher. That'd be a great teacher. And this got me wondering, Should we aspire to be good as teachers, or should we aspire to be great? The idea of being a great teacher is a little daunting to me, but maybe this is something to strive for. In my lesson, I went on to introduce the idea of dispositions for teaching. Dispositions, as I noted to my students, are characteristics or attributes that the teacher embodies that makes them more effective. And in fact, many of the characteristics of good teachers that my students had listed were on my list: caring, passionate, genuine, relational. I included some others, such as flexible, professional, creative, empathetic, compassionate. But the question remains, are good teachers born, or are they made? And so I posed this question to the class. There were a few seconds of thoughtful silence before one student spoke up. Dr. Mulder, this isn't an either-or. Good teachers are born with traits that make them more effective, but they also keep developing those characteristics over time. Bingo. So, this is my challenge to you, teacher. Be a good teacher. Be mindful of your dispositions for teaching, but also continue learning and developing. We can strive for greatness. Friends, if you're teachers, I suspect you have a few weeks of your summer vacation time remaining before you start gearing up for another academic year. And I wish you well in the time that you have. Rest well, play well, and also start your preparations well. So I offer you this blessing as you prepare. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Amen. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great week. This podcast was literally dreamed up during one of our actual hallway conversations. Our music is by Ethan Mulder. Hallway Conversations is created and produced by Matt Beamers, Abby DeGroat, and Dave Mulder. Hey, we have a favor to ask of you. Would you be willing to rate this podcast or write a review in your podcast app? Or if you found this conversation interesting or helpful, would you consider sharing it on your social media? Those things really do help podcasters out, and we would be so, so grateful. Thanks for listening, friends.